This is where the fun begins.
Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.
King Kong ain't got shit on me!
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Say my name.
And here we go.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Realish. I'm Derrick.
What's going on? I'm Matthew, and joining us today is Christina. How are you two doing today? There we go. We start. I didn't know if we can introduce Christina first, and it had me go or introduce both of us. Yeah.
We're still working things out, people.
It's
all good. It's all good. Everyone, I'm pleased that we have today's guest. This is one of my oldest friends. Aside from like Jesus and my sister, this is my oldest friend, Christina. So I'm glad that she has joined us. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah. We everyone you're watching or listening, Jessica is not with us today. She's, as you probably heard in probably like 2 episodes ago, she is actually doing a project that has her out of town for about a month. So we probably won't see her on an episode for a couple of weeks, but you know we look forward to having her back. So good luck out there, Jessica, if you're listening. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. What have you guys been watching?
I've been slacking. I've been slacking big time. That's the honest truth. Other than obviously what would be our main topic of discussion, in Severance.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those weeks where I was just very focused on that one show.
Yeah.
And I didn't even. So I'll be honest. That's all I was up to for like the past week since last time we talked. So
okay.
I'd rather be upfront. I'd rather be upfront about it. But
it's all good, man. It's all good. Yeah. Christina, you watching anything?
Nothing good, I would say, in my opinion. I watched the newest season of Russian Doll. I don't know. It was like a flop to me. Like, I thought the concept of Russian Doll in general was really cool. And then their most recent season was like just, I don't know. They took it too far.
What's the
It was
concept?
like weird. Her days were repeating. So it's Natasha Lyonne from Orange is the New Black, which is great. She plays a lead. She does a phenomenal job. And like, basically, it takes you through each day, keeps repeating for her, and she doesn't know why. And then she meets someone else whose days do that as well. So they accidentally die, and then they wake up, and it's like the same day, like it's her birthday on repeat. But then the newest season was just kind of like, I don't know, like she's time traveling. She finds this magical train, and it takes her back into like the 80s, and she's basically embodying her mom. So she like it was like, you guys could have left. You could have left it at the 2.
That sounds like the newest concept for Fast 10.
Yeah, like we were talking about last time. Yeah. I'm still open to that idea. I think franchise is beyond repair. So
yeah, I mean, Fast and the Furious, that's just gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Reboot the
might
timeline.
as well just do whatever they want to do at this point, because the first 3 were probably their best, and they should have just stopped.
Yeah, I'm tired of it, but they're now in production now. Like Vin Diesel just announced it. What was it,
3 days ago? 2 or 3 days ago?
A couple of days ago, like Fast 10, and apparently his daughter had something to do with his Dominic's sister. I forgot Mia. I think that's her name in the movie. Had something to do with her character actually being in the film or something like that. I don't know why, but whatever. Godspeed to them. That is, I don't know what is going to happen with the movie. Apparently, it's going to be a 2-parter. So technically, we'll have 11 films from Fast and Furious. So that's going to be nice. That's gonna be nice.
That sounds terrible.
It is terrible.
I feel like they just should have
trying to be cordial.
I mean, I'm sorry. Like they could have. Let's move on from what's been done already. And I mean, you can take the same concept and just do it in a new way, but I don't need Vin Diesel's daughter who has something to do with Mia. And it's like this whole, and then The Rock makes a cameo. Like, I just don't need it.
Yeah, poor Jason Momoa.
Yeah, and it's just like money and money talks too, because we're as the audience we're still paying X amount of money for these movies to be made. And it's I mean, I'm fine with it, honestly, because I said before, they do time travel. I'm open to the time travel idea.
At this point, why not? They're gonna be in the MCU.
Why not?
They're gonna help
crossover with Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it is what it is. I don't even care anymore. It's illogical and makes no sense.
That's why I think they should just do something like totally different. This is how I felt about like Batman. I don't need the dude from Twilight, the newest one.
You didn't like it?
From Twilight. You liked it? It was very cheesy.
I loved it. No, I loved it.
It was extremely cheesy.
Really? You thought so?
Seeing this guy who was a vampire like not know how to actually action act, like he in the beginning scenes when he goes to fight these bad guys, he's like not even hitting them, and he's like, it was just
you know what's very interesting about that? I think some people miss the point of the time period, because this is Batman year 2, right? He's still learning different things and learning how to move around. Like, you saw the Batman. We discussed this, Matt. My bad.
No, you're all good.
But there's like that one scene where he's jumping off a building. He put on that flight suit, right? Like, we know Batman has a cape that extends out and allows him to glide, but he's not at that point yet where he's learned about that. And then all of a sudden threw the parachute up, hit the bridge, and tumbled and anything like that. Like, it's little quirks in it. I actually enjoyed it because it was something where we're seeing him learn to be what he is. And I
mean, I think that's cool. I just think that they could have gone with a different actor. Like, it just reads as cheesy. Like, it doesn't present well, in my opinion.
I rewatched it because it hit HBO Max last week, I think.
It sure did.
I rewatched it, and I have to say, I actually think his Batman voice is the best that we've heard.
Okay, I can agree with that. He does have a good Batman voice.
I'd say I'd give the edge to Ben Affleck, but he also has a voice modulator too.
He has a modulator, yeah.
So, but I think in terms of like a natural voice, Pattinson was, in my opinion, the best one. I think he's the best Batman we've ever had. I was on him. I was supporting him from the jump because everyone kept saying that he couldn't act. They had they were
he
totally
can act.
Yeah, but he sort of has like that Twilight stigma to him, and that's why it's kind of hard to detach him from what was it? Did he play Edward or something like that?
He played the main character. It's just that it's not even like his acting, because he played other like serious roles. I mean, I guess maybe it is. Like, it's not like he's a good fit. He's just not mature enough in his chops yet, in my opinion, for him to carry such a weighty role. Like, I like the concepts of it, but like certain things were just cheesy. Like in the opening scene, where we hear him breathing. Like, do you guys remember that?
Oh, the Riddler. So
that was the Riddler. Yeah, that was the Riddler.
I will say that I can understand certain aspects. So I think Paul Dano could have easily given a terrible performance based on what the director wanted, but I thought he did a remarkable job. The one scene that almost got to me was when Batman like meets him face to face in the Arkham prison, and then basically says, I forgot like what led up to his screaming, but he was just basically saying like, you're a nobody, and he started screaming. He's like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
and all that. I can't replicate it, but
No, you did a great job.
that almost got to me.
Yeah.
I was close to laughing because I wasn't sure it was meant to be like this darkly comedic moment. But it's also meant to show
I
how
can
like
see that.
psychologically unhinged he is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their intention was with that scene, but yeah, a lot of
I
people were
don't think
saying
it
that
was to
they're
make
close
you
to laughing. Yeah,
laugh. I just think it's just he's not. I mean, he did what he did, and conceptually it was really great. But like,
yeah.
I feel like they could have let him act in some other things for some time and then use him, if that makes sense.
Robert Pattinson, right?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Did you ever? Jesus, and I'm forgetting the name again, but you and I actually kind of talked about it a little bit, Matt. The devil inside, I think.
Oh, Devil All the Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that, Christina?
Mm-mm.
That's a movie that's on Netflix that you should definitely watch.
Okay.
It's with Tom Hardy. Tom, dear God, the guy who plays Spider-Man. I don't know why I'm blanking on names right now.
Tom Holland?
Holland, thank you. I knew it was an H. Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson were in that film, and Robert did a phenomenal job in that movie. I actually think there's a handful of movies that he's done, I think,
Yeah.
within the last 5 years that showcase his range.
Yeah.
Very
He
well.
did Remember Me. I think that's the name of it. What it was
Mhm.
about the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
good. It was
Yeah.
a more serious. I just think I don't know, like, because I had some scenes where I was feeling the same way, Matt, where I'm like, am I supposed to laugh here? Or
Yeah.
is this supposed to be like a serious moment? Because it
Yeah.
was serious. And I feel
Exactly.
like that comes with like seasoned, like you do enough acting to where it no longer reads cheesy. Kind of like Will Smith's progression, hot take, where he had some movies in the beginning where it was like, and then he just got so much better and he carried and embodied like the roles a lot better. Like Hancock, for example. Like he would not have been able to do that in the 90s when he was Fresh Prince Will Smith. And he just embodied that character a lot better.
No, that's a good point.
I think for me, I mean, Robert Pattinson is one of my favorite actors. And so I've appreciated his commitment to every role. I think his performance in Devil All the Time is one of those where he gives like he does his own Southern accent, and he didn't use a dialect coach. So there are a lot of scenes where he sounds awkward. At parts, but I think it's one of those things where like an accent is bad, but they deliver the lines in a way where you can forgive it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what I was reminded. Not to say like his accent wasn't terrible, but it sounded odd
like
compared to
Anna
the rest of the
Delvey.
cast. Yeah, exactly. But I think moments like that make me appreciate him because he does go above and beyond to make sure that every role is distinct from the next. And when it comes to the Batman, I think he's personally the best Batman. I mean, we really had. I mean, I've been a huge like Christian Bale fan, but my main complaint with him, and I know you touched on like the choreography aspect of the
there's multiple reasons.
The most recent one.
His...
The reason why me and Derek, John, my older brother, as well, I'm not sure what your thoughts are, but the Nolan fight choreography is very bad. A lot of it is sort of like a lot of it's in camera, so you see like punches not connecting with people. You'll see like actual like criminals like falling to the ground randomly, even though kick it like Batman will kick them in their direction, but like the foot is like 5 feet away from them. A lot of stuff like that, But I'm curious what your thoughts were. If like the choreography is an improvement compared to like Nolan's or just what we've seen, from the live action versions as a whole.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not watch the Christian Bale ones.
Okay.
In my head,
Wow,
I can tell, like, I know what I'm gonna like. And immediately I'm like, no, I'm good on that one.
That's interesting.
And that's just, yeah, so I don't really have anything. I mean, I'm comparing it to some of the original Batmans. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought the newest Batman was great. I think that Robert just needed to be a little bit more seasoned for his lines to read to the best of their abilities, if that makes sense. Like they read well. They just, if you're having moments where like it's basically like you're watching What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where you're like, is this what what's happening?
Yeah.
You're not sure. I feel like that's uh, partially the way the actor is presenting them versus like the writing.
Yeah, I can see why you say that. I actually took that as his character being a younger version of Batman, to where it's this awkward feel to it. That's how it read to me. So I didn't
Yeah.
take it as more so Robert's acting. I took it as that was the purpose uh behind the character. Um I I actually have this current version of his Batman as two. I have Ben Affleck as one. I have his as two. Now, if not, if we will get another, we get a more improved Batmobile, we get a more improved Batsuit. Once those two things happen, I will likely put him at one. But I
Yeah.
rewatched the older Batmans, and Jesus, no, just no. Just that's not Batman.
Yeah.
Catwoman, which I don't think anyone has really talked about this, but Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's version of Catwoman is so crazy and deranged. It has nothing to do with the character Catwoman. Now, Zoe Kravitz's version, that's Catwoman. That's what I remember Catwoman being in the cartoons, right? Um
Sort of seductive,
Wasn't Anne
cat thief,
Hathaway
right?
Catwoman
mhm.
too?
Yeah, she
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah, in
She
the Nolan
was.
trilogy, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think because
Y'all
she
are
was
like, nah.
very, yeah, exactly. I think and Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah, and Michelle Pfeiffer is a great actress, but I think I told you just Derek. I might have. I think I only watched like Batman Forever in
Mhm.
full. I think I've
Mhm.
only watched parts of Batman, and if I did watch Batman, it was forgettable for me.
Mhm.
But it was just very. A lot of the scenes were just awkward.
They
You
were.
know, it was just a lot
They
of.
were.
I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. It was just. I don't know. I mean, maybe the intention was to make us uncomfortable, but I also feel like I don't know. There's more like subtlety to Catwoman and Batman's relationship as
Mhm.
opposed to like the more like explicit, like we share a kiss, with the rain pouring down above us, stuff like that. There's
Yeah,
actual like
cheesy stuff.
depth
Yeah.
behind how the relationship develops in the comics and in the film. You can take it or leave it. I mean, you can
Mhm.
probably have an argument that maybe they should have spent more time developing Catwoman as opposed to being this like secondary character
Yeah,
whose
yeah,
only
yeah.
purpose is just I'll have a scene here to progress the plot as opposed to me
Mhm.
having stuff like that. But
So, what did you guys think about Zoe Kravitz's performance in her version of Catwoman then?
I thought they
Or was
had
that what you
great
were just talking about?
chemistry.
Okay.
yeah,
I thought yeah, and I think that really held it together for me at least, because they, because of their chemistry, they kind of work really well together.
Mhm.
So for me, Zoe Kravitz isn't. I feel like sometimes she falls a little flat being a main character. So to
Okay.
have someone where she like can feed off of their energy and they're feeding off of hers, like it kind of
Mhm.
elevates her roles and her acting skills, in my opinion. Because
Mhm.
a good example is High Fidelity on Hulu. If you guys saw that, she's like the lead
Mhm.
in High Fidelity. They did not renew. Um, and you find yourself being more interested in like her co-stars who are not the main characters, but you want to know
Mhm.
more about their storylines than you do hers. and she's supposed to be the focal point. So I feel like
That's interesting.
she does a really good job working off of chemistry. So I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way.
Yeah, I do too. I think her Catwoman is the best one. Um, Someone was like, I said that on I think Facebook a couple weeks back, and someone was like, well, there hasn't been that many, so like, how can you say that?
That's
That's
valid.
fine. That's a valid point, but the issue that I've had is people have said that Michelle Pfeiffer's version is the GOAT, and I went back and rewatched it, and there's no way in hell I'm putting that even top three. There's
Yeah.
just no way. There's no
I mean,
way.
I've never liked Tim Burton movies to begin with.
Yeah.
They're not a style I like.
Yeah.
So, I kind of went. That's another thing too. Like, I want to say I watched. I'm trying to think of like some of the more popular Burton movies, but I remember watching one before Batman Forever or Batman Forever. Batman Returns rather.
Mhm.
And then I sort of went into it knowing, well, I'm not sure. I didn't like his movie before. What are the odds I like another movie of his? I didn't like I didn't like Batman Returns at all. So
Yeah.
that's another thing too. Like, I don't try going into movies with like this preconceived bias of,
Right.
I dislike what a director has done, so naturally their next project is going to be worse or on the same level with each other. But yeah, I never got behind Keaton's version, and it frustrates me that he's going to be the main Batman of the DCEU for the next 5+ years or so. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm not even gonna spare the time to rant about that. But it is what it is,
I'm perfectly fine
mismanagement.
with them. I'm perfectly fine with them putting him in if Batman Beyond was a thing, right? I'd be perfectly
I can
fine
see
with
that.
him introducing him like that. But yeah, DC, I don't have any trust in DC, and they're trying to. They said, I think last week, that they're trying to find their Kevin Feige of Warner Brothers, right? And they want to be able to build out the DCEU in a way that um, models Marvel, and that's perfectly fine that you want to do that. But you're 12 years too late, in my opinion. There's no way in hell that's ever going to happen now. MCU is already built out, and this is growing, and I don't think there's any way to catch up. They've had at least 3 times to actually build it out properly, and every single time have messed it up. So I don't even care anymore about DCEU. Just make the specific movies like Joker and the Batman. Like, just make those
I
movies. Let them
think
be
they
what they
have
are.
time, to be honest. I think they just have to find the right actors and then stick with them. Like, I feel like that's what
Yeah.
Marvel does well. Like, they find the right actors that don't make these movies read extremely cheesy,
Hmm.
and because they
Hmm.
can, like, this fake
Hmm.
action and them flying all over the place can read very cheesy.
Hmm.
And they sort of stick with that and then they keep building it out. Spider-Man's a great example, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there are various Spider-Mans, but each fit in their own bubble, and then Marvel sort of carried those Spider-Mans into like the universe that they were building. So even the
Hmm.
last
Hmm.
Spider-Man, which I loved, I thought it was
That's
really good. I
amazing.
love that they brought everybody back. It was a
Yeah.
nice like nod to the past and to the greats who, did a great job. They were different and we're all together now. Like they just they do a good job of consistency. So when people come
Hmm.
in, you know who you're getting,
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
what cast you're getting, you know that you like them from before, and you know that you want to keep buying into this. So when they went to do the Avengers, it was like, oh, I know the whole cast because I like them. I liked all their movies separately,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
now I like them all together.
Yeah. No,
So
that's
you
that's
kind of
true. That's
know
true.
Yeah,
DC's
no,
all over the place. I have like 50
yeah.
million Batmans, 50 million Catwomans. Like, I don't know what's up with Green Lantern. Like,
Yeah.
this is too
Ye-
much.
No, that, and I'm actually really glad you mentioned that because sort of like Warner Bros. Approach now. I'm not sure like anyone like anyone, like any representative officially said this, but it was basically implied, well, they're concerned that we're having too many Superman, or they're concerned we're having too many Batman, etc. So,
Yeah.
do you think that like oversaturation is going to be DC's biggest problem moving forward? Or do you think they can still do like a Robert Pattinson solo Batman movie and still do like a, let's say in the future they do like a Batman Beyond with Michael Keaton, to a point where like audiences understand that they're in the same like overall universe, but they're not they're not going to interact, if that makes sense.
I think audiences already understand that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why we're comparing Batmans, that's why we compare Jokers, that's why we compare Catwomans. Like all of these people are very each series, or I don't know what you want to call it, but they all stand alone. And I do think that's DC's downfall, because if you say, "Oh, well, I like Robert Pattinson as like the best Batman," and I'm like, "Oh, but I like Ben Affleck as the best Batman," like, and we're too split. Like you can't pick one and then make it into like this universe and add that particular Batman, because there isn't one. And same thing with Superman. Like if you were someone who was a hard set Smallville fan and then you've got someone else playing Superman, like you're like, but I like Smallville guy.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
movie, this guy. So we're too split. And what they can do is, if the majority said this newest Batman was like the best, they could take that and run with it. He's still young. Zoe Kravitz is still young. You started from basically the beginning, like where Batman's trying to figure out all these things. So you can take that and build that for him, and then you can at the same time build for the other DC characters. Like you need to just find younger people, like how we like James Bond, right? The same guy he played most of the movies until he was done. Great. Now we
Oh
expect
yeah.
a new
Yeah.
James Bond. Like this guy, I wanted to see him in every single James Bond movie. Now I
Yeah.
want a new one because he's old.
Yeah.
And obviously, I made sure to cut Derrick in on this too. But like everything you said is logical, but Warner Brothers just doesn't understand that for some reason.
They don't
They
understand
just
logic.
they don't understand like what you said.
They're
If you were
seeing
to like,
money.
yeah,
It's
exactly. If
immediate
you
money
Yeah,
coming
if
in.
you were to go, yeah, if you're, oh, I'm sorry, Christina, you go ahead. I didn't mean
No,
to
go ahead.
interrupt.
Sorry, I
No,
interrupted
I
you.
was gonna say like if you went into a meeting with them right now and laid out everything you said makes total sense, they would say, I mean, I don't know about that. There's nothing to think about. Like you can do multiple iterations of characters. I think audiences are intelligent enough to know, you know, like this is different in this version. We're not expecting this whole like crossover event to happen, but you know, it's just mismanagement at its finest, and shows how there wasn't like a clear a clear plan after Zack Snyder's departure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the biggest issue that they've had is that they don't understand that not only do you need to have the right actors in specific roles, you need to have the right the best writers. They don't have anybody in there that knows how to actually develop these stories in their live actions. Now the animated films, those are those are the best. Like the animated films are top notch. Why would you not bring those writers in to do the live actions? I have no clue. But that's again speaking to your point there, Matt. There's logic that it's just not associated with WB for some reason. I don't know why they don't know to just do something that simple. It's very simple, very simple.
I
And
think it's
this would
money.
actually be a good. I think it's money too, but I think part of it is that they just don't have the right people in place making decisions, because this is actually this version of Batman is a great place to start if you wanted to build the universe out. I agree with that. I don't like the Joker that they've teased. They released. Did you guys see the clip where they showed how he actually looked in his interaction with Batman?
Yeah. Way better scene, I will say.
I did.
But you can, I mean, him. You can interchange. I mean, and you can focus on Batman. You could bring in Robin. Like you can, you can
do
make the
Robin the right
villains
way
like
too.
sidebar, kind of like in Spider-Man, where they're
Yeah.
just like not really forefront. You don't really
Yeah.
need them. Like if they did their role really well, you're like, all right, Doctor
Yeah.
Octopus, you got it.
Yeah.
But if like,
Yeah.
if they fell flat, like the Sandman,
Yeah.
dude, like you're like, like
And
I didn't need Jamie Foxx, but okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's
Yeah,
kind of
this version actually saved his version of Electro.
yeah. I'll never forget. The only thing I'll say about I'll be out on the record and say Andrew Garfield's my favorite Spider-Man, and I think he's the best. Right? I can admit the second movie is not very good. I think what really sold it as like terrible to me was when the electricity like fixes the gap between his teeth. I was done by the very moment. Is all I'll say. I knew what kind of movie I was in for.
They did that man dirty, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe he just had some background stuff going on because they really did his version pretty dirty.
Yeah. Hey, redemption, No Way Home. Everyone got redemption, so.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, I gotta say, like, Tobey Maguire didn't play like Spider-Man to the comic books, like that character well, but the way he embodied his version, for me, made him my favorite Spider-Man. Tom Holland would have to be my favorite if you're playing it to the character well. Because he's young. He carries like this young energy well, almost, but then can be serious. So even while I was watching the newest one, and he's already making a mistake from before, and you're like, don't do it, don't trust him. Like he's just a high school kid, but that's why it reads so like authentic, because he is trying to be this adult and more mature, but then at the same time he is just a high school kid, so he is immature.
Yeah.
So he would be my favorite, but Tobey Maguire hands down was my favorite series.
He was yours too, Derek, right? Or did you say Tom Holland was?
Tom Holland was mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know for a fact Derek did not.
I had so many issues with Tobey Maguire's version. Like, how are you in high school with a 5 o'clock shadow? Like,
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's what made Tom so good, because it was like, oh, this is more authentic.
Yeah. That, I mean, Toby's was I love Toby's first two films. Okay, of course, as a kid, that was like when I watched it, I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. That's I loved it, right? But then the third one was just like absolute garbage. I don't even know why they made that.
I mean, you got to make a 3. The third one is always trash of every series. Usually,
it had nothing to do with Sam Raimi's version of vision for the film. The studio came in and just obliterated anything he was actually going to do.
Yeah.
So
I think he just wanted what's it called? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I think he only wanted Sandman and New Goblin in the movie, and then they said, "Oh, I think Avery came in and he was like, the kids love Venom. Put in Venom.
Yeah,
come on. You want to do it? Put in Venom. Come on, you want to do it." And then,
I mean, I did like it. I just thought I pictured the third one as just like Tobey Maguire was done and they had to hurry up. Like it was like that's how I took the third one. He didn't want to be called Spider-Man anymore. He wanted y'all to stop talking to him, stop trying to take pictures, stop asking him to shoot little webs. He was done, and I feel like they were just trying to like wrap that up. Like, let's get one more out of him. He said one more.
Yeah, the studio really just messed it up.
Yeah,
they messed it up big time, and I didn't like his because of the how old he looked. But
he looked old the whole time.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield
MJ
was
looked
a pretty
old
boy
too.
She did,
Yeah,
and she aged drastically by the third one, and it
yeah.
made no sense. So I was like, I don't mind. Of course, actors are usually older than the characters they play anyway, but these guys are already close to their 30s. Like it didn't make any sense. So Andrew Garfield's version was I thought it was good, but I didn't like his Peter Parker. His Peter Parker was pretty
It
boy
fell flat.
Parker.
Yeah.
I
I didn't like that. I didn't like it.
They
So
just did
yeah,
the man dirty, Matt. Like they did. They did
I
him dirty because he had
I,
the potential.
he did. No,
I
his Spider Man was phenomenal though.
he. I'll be honest. I like his Peter Parker. I'm gonna be upfront about it. I think
Yeah, yeah,
it's not comic accurate
yeah,
at all.
yeah,
But I think given so I wasn't born with the Raimi trilogy. So I mean I was born 2002. So I mean I obviously I wasn't.
Wow.
Well, I probably would have been.
I know. I almost choked.
I
Yeah,
was
exactly. It's
12.
like, yeah, I was. Yeah, yeah. So I was born 2002. I would have been two when
Oh
Spider-Man 2
my
came
god.
out, and I think it would have been it came out 2007, so it would have been 7 when Spider-Man 3 came out. I did not watch those movies growing up. So my
Yeah,
Spider-Man was
that makes
Andrew
sense.
Garfield. Like I went to the theater watching
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
So I had like a natural affinity towards him. I loved the movie. And then I revisited the Tobey Maguire trilogy and still had that, the equal love for it. Even the
yeah.
third movie at the time. But that was at a time where I was just sort of digesting everything and not really
Mm,
like thinking about, what's really good or bad. I just, I want to keep myself busy for the next 2 hours, sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, that makes
I think,
sense.
yeah. So for Peter, I think it really fell into like the like almost like the quirky, edgy teenager, which
Mm-hmm.
fit the vibe of like the early 2010s,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So I understand if like a few of the scenes are a bit awkward and cringeworthy, especially the exchanges between him and Gwen, like kind of make me
Yeah,
like fizzle up a bit, So I'm like, oh
yeah,
my gosh, can you just like talk to her normally, like ask her out
yeah,
on the date, don't get
yeah,
so nervous. But it felt natural. I take that over Mary Jane and Peter from
yeah,
what's it called, the original trilogy. If I'm being
yeah.
totally honest,
I
because
like
Garfield just
that.
makes yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, did you like their relation? Did you like what's
I
it
thought
called?
they were all
Mary Jane
different.
and
Yeah, like
Peter's
I thought they
relationship?
were
Yeah.
all different, and I love that Andrew Garfield had Gwen. Like I thought that was
Yeah.
they just did him. They did him so dirty. I'm not, because his
Oh yeah.
had so much potential. It was just like I don't know who it was, but they did him so dirty.
They did.
No,
They
you
did.
are you're 100. Actually, I'll let Derek comment on this.
They did.
Like what for, or really for you two, like question directed towards you two is like what was it more frustrating, right? That
Mm.
they said we're not giving you a third movie, or was it more frustrating that I'm trying to find a way like to word this. Or it was more frustrating that he already had bad writing, and you're glad he didn't get a third one, or
Mm-hmm.
you're frustrated he didn't get a third one, but you were still, you're just going to accept that it was just going to be bad writing regardless of, you know, how it turned out.
I felt like the timing of it was weird because it seemed like we had just gotten Andrew Garfield. Um, so by the time they said, "Oh no, we're moving on from his version," it was like that doesn't even why like that doesn't even make sense. Just continue, just make the third film and let it be. But I was perfectly fine with them moving on. If they were bringing him to the MCU, because it made sense at that point. Okay, if we're gonna get him in the MCU, I do want to see a fresh Spider-Man. So by the time they said that they were going to do that, there was I forgot who it was that I was even thinking would be a good fit for the role, but when Tom Holland came into the picture, I specifically remember being in the theater watching his version jump into the picture and catch the Captain America's shield and start talking. I'm like, yo, that's the comic book version right there, because he's talking the entire time as he's fighting. He's being quirky and all this. I'm like, this is it. That's Spider-Man. That's Spider-Man. These other versions, they're Spider-Man, but they're you know, there's different things I didn't like about them. This was Spider-Man for me. This is the comic book version that I remember, and this is what I wanted. So for them to bring that in, I had no problems with them not doing it. Now I think at this point I do kind of want to see if they are going to wrap it up with Andrew Garfield's version. I know there's talk about him doing a third one. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I don't need it. Let me put it like that. I wouldn't mind seeing it if they do it, but there's no need for it from me. I'm good. I do not want to see Paul Giamatti's Rhino at all. That was trash.
I think honestly, I love this character in the movie. I think he was Rhino. He would have been the great. I think he would have been the greatest Spider-Man villain.
Really?
No, I'm joking around.
Oh my god! I was about to say, man, Green Goblin. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I'm good on his third. To be honest, I don't need it. If they put it out there, I'll watch it. But like, I don't. Yeah. I mean, his just fell flat for whatever reason, and then it was enough time. Like by the time Tom Holland came onto the scene and embodied it exactly, they had the animated, and that was good in between.
Oh yeah.
So it was ooh, what will they do next? They've got this, person of color playing it, and like we're getting a part of like this. The animation was so good. So by the time Tom Holland came, it was like, wow, you surprised me again. Like this is so fun. I want to keep going. So I don't know. We don't really need a third from Andrew, to be honest.
We don't. And
but if they gave it to us, sure.
Yeah, I think they're gonna actually move toward the Miles Morales version anyway. That's what I'm expecting them to do within the next 5 years. I think we'll see Miles Morales come into the picture at some point where Tom Holland's version is training him, and then they'll phase him out. That's what I'm expecting in the next 5 years for them to
I was gonna say like my thing is this. I think you two might find my answer surprising. I don't want a third Amazing Spider-Man movie at all.
Whoa.
I only say that because I can't have this man Garfield be subjected to bad writing, bro.
I
know. I can't, man. Like this guy, he does everything right. He literally makes the worst dialogue sound like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It's not normal. He's too talented of an actor for that. I'm not for me, like for his mental sanity, I don't want him in another Sony production, bro. It's bad. Yeah. Like I don't want him in a universe where, because I'm assuming that if they bring back Andrew Garfield, he's gonna be put with the Morbius and Venom universe. I don't want him in a universe where one of the lines of dialogue. I didn't watch Morbius, but I saw the end credit scene. One of Vulture's literal line was, "I don't know how I got here. It's got to do with Spider-Man, I think." And that's his motivation for going after forming the Sinister Six. And then Morbius says, "Intriguing," and it ends the scene. That was the end credit scene. It was Morbius just saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna fight this guy I never even met before." That's it. I don't want that for him. So, Garfield, I love you. If you want to come back for like a short film, I'll direct it for you. That's it. Like I can't, man. So that's my perspective. I understand. I understand what you two mean. I trust me. I watched Amazing Spider-Man too, so I know what you mean. It's oh my god.
I didn't watch Morbius. I know at some point it's going to end up on Stars, and when it does, I'll watch it. But I really don't care about Morbius. I really don't, especially knowing that this is not anything to do with the MCU in any way, shape, or form. I don't really even care.
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say, sorry, I don't mean to be talking about this so much, but like they basically retconned the No Way Home ending. So you know how like in No Way Home or whatever, for those who haven't watched it. So basically like the spell happens, anyone who knows Peter's identity gets transported back to their world, basically. Right? Michael Keaton's version, MCU version, knew Peter's identity, right? So even though he knew his identity, he should still remain in the MCU Earth. Like there's no reason he should be transported elsewhere. He'll forget his identity, right? They don't do that. they transport him to the Morbius universe,
Oh,
right?
get the hell out! So
Yeah, he
Michael
got
Keaton's version was
Michael
in there.
in Morbius. Yeah, he got transported from the MCU to the Morbius world, which doesn't make any sense because it doesn't line up with what the spell was doing. And that he literally says in the I swear I could be messing around. He literally says, "I don't know how I got here. It's got to do with Spider-Man, I think." It was either in a prison or no, it doesn't. But that was like one of his lines of dialogue. It was so self-aware how bad it was that they literally don't have an explanation. It was just like, "Oh, yeah, I'm in prison, I guess. Gotta kill Spider-Man now." That was it. That was it. That was literally the hit. And then Morbius literally agrees to face to kill someone that he never met before. It's just an excuse for them to set like a multiverse and Sinister Six thing.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm gonna say.
That's garbage.
So I'm just sorry for you two. I know I'm not sure if you two watched the movie, but if you haven't, I'm sorry for even saying that to you. Like that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, they did
I'm
him
sorry.
dirty. I mean, he had a good. They gave him a lot of good things. Like again, I really like the Gwen concept. Like that was phenomenal, to be honest. But I could. My man Andrew deserves better.
Which is why I'm glad he was in the MCU.
He can make cameos, but like his. I mean, because even the way he carried the cameo, like Tobey Maguire fell flat in the cameo, which I understood because he did not want to be. He didn't want to be. He's like done with being Spider-Man, so it's like I'm coming back just to you know. And you could tell he gave that energy.
I was actually surprised with how well he looked. Like
he looks great,
phenomenal.
But great.
Yeah. But he looked like I would expect his Peter Parker to look, right?
Yeah.
Aged and chilling. I expect that. The problem is that's how his Peter Parker looked in the trilogy. So it's just it didn't. That's what my issue was. I didn't want.
Liked it. I kept it separate. It's just the same way how I feel about the Jokers. Like I feel like Heath Ledger's Joker and Jack Nicholson, very different. Like I don't think they're comparable. So it's like I just think they are different Spider-Mans. Was he closer to the comic Spider-Man? Absolutely not. But whatever Spider-Man he was, he definitely did such a good job to the point where people only note him as Spider-Man. And I think that says a lot. But Andrew Garfield did great in his cameo. He was high energy. Then he was basically making me tear up. He's like, Gwen died. I'm like, oh my God, Gwen did die.
Yeah, that did get me too. I was like, oh man.
I'll be honest though, like I'm not like a crier when it comes to movies or anything, and it takes a lot for me to even laugh, but I almost started tearing up when I saw Garfield again. Cause he's just like he's my Spider-Man. And then after everything he went through with the studio, it just felt so relieving that he made amends with them and said, I'll return for what what at the time felt like a final, the final time he ever played a character, and basically those Spider-Man's stories we left up to interpretation. Which, given Sony's track record, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with never seeing Toby and Garfield again, if that means they won't have to read terrible scripts, even though it's just I can't for the both of them. Like for their own sanity, just keep moving on with your wonderful careers and just you did great.
Yeah.
That's all I can say for them. It's just
Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even have anything else to say. That disgusted me what you just said.
The Morbius thing, I wish I was lying, bro.
I'm so done, man.
Like, I said, you can tell which villains belonged in which.
Sony needs to go to hell. I'm sorry. I'm so done with them. I really don't even care anymore.
I've said before, bro, that I refuse to watch another Sony production again. Backtrack. Sony Marvel production.
Marvel, yeah. Because Venom, like I didn't even watch the second one, but what irritated me so much about Venom, aside from a lot of the of the sequences or whatnot. I was watching this. This is supposed to be based in like New York, I think.
I think San Francisco. The
San
first Venom
Francisco.
movie.
Yeah. My bad. San Francisco. And I'm watching them drive on Georgia State's campus. Like, I'm literally like, this is where I went to school. And that annoyed the hell out of me. It's just, I didn't want to see the second one. I didn't want to see a sequel. I was fine with Tom Hardy's performance. I want to see that in MCU. I don't want to see Sony's version of anything anymore. Like, I don't even care. They can, if they want to make any more Marvel films, do that over there. Like, I'll watch them if they hit stars. That's about it, because I already paid for stars. I don't have to pay for your movie, so I'm not giving you any money to go see your stuff anymore. Like, I'm so good on that, so good. It's not even necessary anymore. I'm good. Yeah, Sony belongs in hell for what they've done.
Aside from that, I'll say one last thing on this. Villain-wise, like, I think it takes a lot for villains to carry their own storyline, because they don't really have one, especially in the comics in general. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. I think it takes quite an actor, and the only villain that I would probably in the Marvel world want to see, specifically Spider-Man, in their own movie is the Hobgoblin, but he's now old. Like, they should have done that back when they were doing, because that guy carried he for me carried his role. He even came back in this last Spider-Man. This man is old. He was crushing it still. Like, I felt for him. I was like, maybe he's changed. Maybe he's no longer crazy. And then he tricked me.
Yeah.
Like, he carried it so well that it was just like, I could see a little quick film him.
So you want a Green Goblin origin story, or just like where things left off? Or
I would take an origin story. I would even take where things left off, because like he had like a moment with. I mean, it seemed like a generational thing almost. Like it. Like I would take either or I would have. I don't know who they would have play that now.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing him, because he's phenomenal. He kills it every single time. I love him. I would not mind seeing his story, like when Doctor Strange put everybody back into their place. I wouldn't mind seeing where he goes from that point.
His was the most interesting in the newest one. Like, I was like, yeah. He's homeless.
He tricked
Save
me too.
him.
He tricked me too. I ain't gonna lie. I just hate that they didn't show him with his mask for the majority of the film. Like, his helmet, rather. His helmet is just like, he just leaves it in the dumpster. Like, that was stupid.
Yeah, but
like,
it might have been
there's little
actor.
things MCU that has done that has been real stupid. But that's been like every once in a while. They have their moments every few years where it's just like,
I feel like that could have been one or two things. That could have either been maybe he just wasn't able to do it, because the majority of like the movies that he was in, he did wear his mask. I feel like that takes a lot, and then when you're out of shape, it's a little bit harder to get back in. Or they just wanted to make sure that they were sort of tugging at your heartstrings. So even at the end, when all the Spider-Mans are unmasked, like they had Tobey Maguire doing these stunts. Like,
they did.
They did. So it could have just been like, okay, the point of this is to sort of bring it all around for all of these viewers who grew up with different versions of Spider-Man, and just saying like, all right, we need everybody's faces to be seen so that it can resonate with you.
Yeah.
So that was probably why I didn't really mind that, because I mean, he still bodied it. So it was like,
killed it.
Speaking of body though, Peter certainly felt that in that apartment complex. That's all I'm gonna say. Goblin went full WrestleMania on him.
He
I was
did.
just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know.
He
I love,
crushed it.
literally,
So I feel like,
literally,
yes,
Literally
literally.
like,
crushed it.
yeah.
Oh
If they
man,
were to
he was
do
Oh
so
like
good.
man,
a side movie, like I'd want to see his for sure. But
I wouldn't mind that.
I need that actor.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, he's phenomenal, and it would be interesting to see. I just
I mean, they don't need to do it, but
they don't
I'm
need
just
to,
saying,
but it would be a money grab for sure. It would be
yeah.
a money grab for sure. Yeah.
And a one and done. I don't need a trilogy with a villain.
Yeah, yeah. I think Marvel, for the most part, has a good pace with their stuff anyway. So I think if they were to do it, it would be a one off because there's no way in hell we don't need three Goblin movies.
You
But
don't.
yeah, we really don't. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be good. But let's go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, you guys will hear us discussing our feature presentation, 2022 Apple TV's series Severance. So we'll be right back.
Hi, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. My name is Jessica Lemon, and I am the host of Sour, Sweet, and Spooky, a paranormal podcast with a little true crime squeezed in. Because where there's paranormal activity, there's gotta be some kind of true crime involved, right? I talk about ghosts, aliens, murder, cryptids, urban legends, conspiracy theories, and more. Stories from all over the world for you to enjoy every week. So check me out on social media at Sour Sweet Spooky and pretty much every platform that podcasts are found. And be ready for a brand new story. Oh, and remember, stay sour, stay sweet, stay spooky.
What's going on, you beautiful people? I am back. This is Matthew, Derrick, and we have our guest Christina. We're gonna be talking about. We're allowed to curse on this podcast, right?
Yeah,
We're allowed to
yeah,
curse.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
a fucking awesome series we're about to talk about. It's called Severance. Okay, I'm gonna be right out of the gate. If you have not seen Severance, if you have thought about seeing Severance, now is your time. All the episodes are available on Apple TV. We're gonna explain to you why each of us love the series as a whole, but to give you a brief rundown of what it's about. Basically, it revolves around workers who basically workers who work for Lumen Industries, and they undergo a procedure called severance, in which their worker memories and their non-work memories are separated from each other. In other words, they become two distinct people, but they have no recollection of what basically the non-worker version does versus the worker version. And obviously tackles a bunch of themes of like free will, corporate conspiracy, things of that
Mhm.
nature. So before we get into all the nitty gritty details of the actual show, I guess I wanted to ask you both: what are your initial thoughts? Were you even aware of the series when it first came out on Apple TV? Did you get a chance to watch it episode by episode, stuff like that?
Take it away, Kristen.
I just kind of stumbled upon it. I had honestly finished all the things on Netflix I wanted to watch and Hulu, Peacock. Like I was just kind of going through the list and I'm like, oh, I've never watched anything on Apple TV and started it. I would say that I thought it was really good. I think it is one you have to sit through first. First episode, you have to get a little more than halfway through before you're intrigued, and then it doesn't actually pick up until like episode 5 or 6. So you have to really watch this one, but if you do, it's honestly really good. Like 10/10.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I had so I've watched a couple of things on Apple TV. Most recently, there's another series with Jason Momoa called C. That if you guys haven't watched that, absolutely brilliant. I think it's 2 seasons on there, 2 or 3 seasons, and it's absolutely brilliant. Um, I while watching that, I would see Severance on there, but I'm like, don't really care about getting into that right now. I want to finish this. And finished it, loved it. Completely forgot about this series because I really wasn't even. Went on to watch. I think that's when I went on to watch Bel Air or something like that. So I really wasn't even looking at Apple TV in any way, shape, or form. But my God, this is absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad that this came out on there, but I started watching the first episode. I want to say almost like a month ago. I was at my parents' house and I started it, and I got like 20 minutes in, but there was so much noise going on at the house that I wasn't. I was. I'm not. I can't get into it, and so I just turned it off. Man, I'll watch it later. And then I forgot about it. And then Matt, you were discussing something about it last week, and I was like, oh, I did start that. Cool. I'll go ahead and check it out. Christina actually hit me up randomly to say, hey, like you should check this out. And I was like, hold on, is that same show? I was like, okay, let me check this out. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. I didn't realize until this week though that Ben Stiller was attached to the project.
Yeah, he did a
If I'm not
great job.
mistaken, I think is this his directorial debut?
No. He's directed a number of projects.
Okay,
The
okay.
most popular of his filmography, to my knowledge at least, is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh, he
Yeah, he
directed
did
that.
do that.
What I referenced a few times.
Yeah.
I think I referenced in last week's episode, or we just had like a separate conversation
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Yeah.
And
So
oddly enough,
he directed that too.
yes, he directed
Okay.
that film, and
Okay.
then I want to say he directed 5 episodes of the series, and I think
Mm.
the rest were just I don't recall the other names of the other directors, but
Yeah.
something like
Okay.
that. He did a remarkable job.
Yeah, for
Everyone
sure.
did as a whole.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 But let's go ahead and get into it. Like, what were your initial thoughts with the first episode though? Because I know it is a slow build.
um, so for me, I I was a big so when I read the synopsis first,
Okay. Okay.
and I
Okay.
thought it sounded like a fascinating concept. So
Mm.
I knew going into it, chances are, like, episodes will have like extensive run times because he
Mm.
obviously had to establish every single one of the characters,
Mm.
make sure like audiences are behind like what the creators are actually going for.
Mm.
So I was fine with how every episode took their time. I mean, I think on for me anyways, the least eventful episode was probably episode 3, and the only reason to that is because a lot of it was Helly basically. So for context, one of the characters' name is Helly,
Mm.
and she basically like wants out of Lumen. Says, I want to follow a I want to resign from my position.
Mm.
You cannot keep me in here, without my permission, stuff like that. It was a lot of her rebelling against like the authorities.
Mm.
So it was a lot of, I'm going to do this. No, you can't do this. Go back to your desk. I'm going to do this. No, you can't do this. Go back to your desk. Stuff like that.
Mm.
And obviously, you sort of had like the plot related to PD. So I can't. That's the one thing I can't remember what happened in episode 3, other than I want to say PD's death.
It went
Again,
to
another character.
perpetuity as well to sort of get you a little background on
That's right.
Lumen's history.
Yeah, that's right.
I
That's
thought
That's
episode
yeah.
3 was really good because by episode 3 you kind of start really diving into, I don't know if this is like, it's maybe like a sub concept where
right.
even though you're severed, you almost still have like a baseline of personality. So
Mm.
you see like in episode 1 where Mark is almost robotic, but then like throughout he has these deep emotional, kind connections to the point where even Patricia Arquette's character is basically like, "Why do you care?" Like, she's like, "What is your problem? Like, these are just your coworkers, and you really shouldn't care that much." So I thought it was interesting to see that there are people who might make this decision as an outie, right? Because they're the people who are a part of the personal lives are called outies, and then the people who are in the work lives are called innies. So, like, even though you make this decision, you might not actually like it because it is you. So it was interesting to see a character that wasn't um, sort of taking it in stride, like Mark S. or any of the other characters that were working there who were severed. She's basically saying, like, I need to be free, to the point where, like, she's even willing to kill herself, which kills, like, all versions of her. And I thought that was imperative to the story because this is why, even in the, I think it is episode 3, where Mark ends up going to the break room at some point for Helly, because like he's trying to be a good boss or whatever. And when you see him in his personal life, he ends up interacting with people who are protesting being severed. And so part of the reason you understand, like, part of the reason people are protesting that is because you might have someone like Kelly who is there. She is a human, she is a person, and she doesn't want to be there, but she's being basically like almost held captive in a sense, which you don't really understand until her character comes. Because with Petey's like, you can assume Petey's been severed for years. And at that point, he's ready to sort of be done. And he's been learning all these different things and he's trying to reintegrate. But everybody else seems like they're fine with it. Like they just come to work and then they go home and they're okay with that way of living. But there are people like Kelly who made a decision and they just don't want it. So I think that was a good episode because of that.
No, yeah, definitely. I think what what I appreciate, I love how there were subtle like hints throughout the series regarding the endings. Like for example, in episode 2, we see one of the characters, Irving, played by John Turturro, who I was very surprised was in the series. Like drew me off for a second. I was like, wait, is that John Turturro?
Yeah.
And at one point, he's sitting at his desk, and all you see is this like black slime or black paint, like starting to cover his entire desk. And then Mark talks to him real quickly and says like, "Wait, Irving, what's going on?" He proceeds to scream, heads to the wellness center, and that's when he meets Bert. The work he ends up developing a romantic interest for. And for me, I was a bit confused, as I originally thought maybe like the traits of the Audi merges with the traits of the innie. So whatever experiences the Audi has, the innie has that within their subconscious, but it's like a malfunction of the chip. Like a malfunction of the chip is taking place, and uh, that isn't necessarily the case, because as we see in the ending, where like we see Irving is painting the same, keeps doing the same painting over and over again. There's even like a small shot of him having like a military medal, so perhaps he's like a PTSD ridden person. So I found that very bizarre in a way. It was also the same elevator that Miss Casey was taken to. And obviously Miss Casey has her own like bombshell reveal at a later point in the series.
Yeah.
So yeah, needless to say, there's a lot to sort of digest, but the biggest compliment I have is I think every character was unique in their own way. Not one that I dislike. I mean, the only character that I think I disliked, which is more so based on like his dialogue, or just like
Dylan.
he came off as annoying. No, not Dylan. Actually, I actually really liked it because that Jack Terry, he cameoed in like Homecoming and Shang-Chi.
They
Uh,
did build his character really well because I was
yeah.
uninterested in him in the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, definitely. He was
And
definitely
then I
like
was like,
the
shut the front door.
oh yeah. He was definitely like the comedic relief of the group.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
thought that's his only purpose. And then you discover, and then later on they sort of built um his backstory through his outie self, where um there's like this whole I forget what
Overtime hours.
the over exactly where
yes, yes,
you could sort of deactivate the chip momentarily and have the any basically be on the outside. It was awesome to see him, like, well, awesome in a way of like how like Zach Cherry delivered, because he gave a really good performance in that scene where he was just like,
he
oh,
did.
where am I? He's like, this is my house. It's like, wait, it
Yeah,
was like, what is it? Wait, is this my son?
yeah.
And all that. So sorry, I know I'm jumping around all over the place
No,
with
No,
characters, so
I
I
get
apologize,
you.
no,
but
you're
It
good.
was a
it's
good series.
yeah, it's a lot to sort of take in. But for you, Derek, what character stood out to you um compared to the rest? I know I kind of like covered a bunch of them, but were there any that you thought, yeah, like that's I really like you?
I think I liked pretty much everybody in the office for different reasons, but I was really intrigued by Bert. I think because I didn't expect Christopher Walken to walk out that room. I didn't expect that. When I saw him, I was like, oh, hold up, because it kind of took me back to what was that movie, Click. I was thinking about Click when I saw him. I was like, what, like, this is interesting, and I didn't expect to see him, but I actually I I love the dynamic between him and Irving a lot. I thought that because it's like that office romance type of thing, but they're not even they're technically not even supposed to be like talking to each other in general, but you see that they find ways to go to each other's departments and spend time with each other, which is very intriguing. But I think that the thing about his character was that he was hanging up these paintings in different vestibules of the building, but people usually don't even like walk that, to certain distances to be able to like enjoy the paintings. It's like you're supposed to be there working. You get these little rewards like waffle parties and melon parties. Like you get these different awards for hitting different milestones or whatever. And I think I was intrigued as to why they were even putting up paintings, because it almost didn't even make sense to put paintings up at all. All you had were white hallways. As like white hallways, trash can, white hallway, water fountain. A white hallway, elevator, couch. Like that's literally that all that was there. So it was intriguing that he was going around putting all these paintings up around the place that people really could not enjoy that much, because it seemed like the only person that was really even enjoying it was Irving. Aside from Irving, Bert was he enjoyed it because he was putting them up, right? Like there was that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that showed that anybody else had any type of moment to really just stand and look at the art. Um, so I found that very intriguing. But I love their dynamic, and I think um, the other character really was the main character, Mark. I thought that he was very interesting because his reason for wanting to be severed was because of loss, right? Like everybody had their reason to want to actually do this, because the whole controversy is this is this um a good thing to be able to do, right? Like you have this company that wants you to work for them, but they don't want you to remember anything that you're doing. So you have no clue when you come out, like what it is you actually do. When you're even in there, you don't even know what your purpose is. You're just doing these almost like mindless tasks to fulfill a purpose of a greater good, so to speak. So I found that dynamic of it interesting, but I think that his was unique in terms of that he was mourning the loss of his wife, and in order to forget her for just a moment of time, to not feel this pain, instead of, it's almost like when you lose, when someone goes through that period of loss, and they either become an alcoholic, or they find other ways to numb the pain. This was his way of doing that, right? So for 8 hours a day, he's not himself. He's not in this grief. And that was probably the most intriguing part of it to me, in terms of the why. Like, everybody else had their other reasons as to why they did it. I don't know. I don't know if they actually spoke about Dylan's why. Um but uh I think you kind of hinted a little bit at that with Irving, though, Matt. Like, his was like the PTSD,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
That
And
that
I
had to
think,
be it.
or you even look at Helly's outside. Helly's so
Yeah.
for context, I forget forget the first name, but Egan is basically like the founder of I believe the industry,
Cure Egan.
if I'm not mistaken, here Egan.
Mm,
And I thought to myself, like as I was watching, because there is a lot of emphasis on like his principles, even like
mm-hmm.
Patricia Arquette's character,
Yeah,
Harmony, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken, like has a shrine dedicated to him,
Mm,
alluding to the fact that she's willing to sacrifice everything just to fulfill sort of his dreams, his goals, etc. And
mm.
I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if Helly was a Egan, and that was at the second episode. I was like,
Really?
I have a feeling either Helly or someone else is an Egan, because they keep, it's one of those shows where even like the slightest cutaway to something,
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
character having like even a single line of dialogue
yeah. Mm,
has some significance. So I said, let's wait it out." What confirmed it for me was when, after basically they work in macro data refinement, and we don't
mm-hmm.
know what they're doing, and that's something
Right.
we'll obviously discuss a bit more on. Basically the entire office has to hit obviously has to hit their quotas. They have to reach like 100% of doing this, like basically this coding activity.
Mm,
She does that, and Egan says to her, so I'm not sure if it's a message that every worker in the office gets after
mm,
getting a 100% in every category or whatever.
mm.
But he says, like, "Congratulations, Helly R, I love you." I was thinking to
Yeah,
myself,
yeah, 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 yeah,
"I
yeah.
love you."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's interesting." And then, later on, when we see Helly's outside, like outie self, he says, "Oh, this is such and such Egan." And I said, I knew one of you were an Egan, and
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
knew in the beginning one of you were going to be an Egan, but
Mm.
I knew it, and I thought that was actually a really clever twist. Even though I there's nothing that that proved it,
Mm.
other than that point. I think that point, like, for me, solidified it, but it could have just been every worker in the office gets that message. But were you two under that impression as well, that like the whole like Kier Egan thing would play some kind of significance, or was it one of those things where it's just like, it's sort of put off to the side, but the character, like a certain character, will like be the embodiment of, you know, what he means.
Yeah, I think I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. I was literally, because what struck me odd was, it felt, I'm not sure if you guys felt this way, but to me it felt as if they put Egan into this godlike um sphere. So I was, because even in that module thing that you were talking about, like, he's like, I love you, this and the other, but I gotta go and, what is it, like, spread happiness to, I don't know, something like spread the word or some weird thing, and then flies off. It was very weird, but I took it as if this is their god, so to speak. So when he said I love you, I kind of took it as God's love type of thing, the quote unquote type of that. That's how I took it. So I never even thought like, and again, I told you this before, but when I'm watching something, I try to I'm more so in the moment, not even thinking about the future aspects or consequences of something like that. So I try to just enjoy it in the moment. And so for me, I wasn't even thinking about the connection. So it makes sense when you say it like that, because I never even thought about that. But
About having that father
the
and daughter
foreshadowing,
dynamic.
yeah, I
I
never
thought
thought
it
about
was
that.
I thought it was like I thought about it in the same way Derek thought about it
Mm,
when it came to that message, but I knew she was important based on her personality. Like she had such a strong, like compared to the others, even the
mm-hmm,
people who are I guess are supposedly unsevered.
mm-hmm,
Like I'm assuming Harmony is unsevered. I'm assuming Milchek is, and maybe the
mm-hmm,
security guard.
mm-hmm,
But like her personality was so vastly different
yeah,
from all of the severed people. Like it
mm,
was like everybody was just kind of like, we don't know what we're doing.
mm-hmm,
Like,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
but we
yeah,
come to work every day, and she's like, why are we doing this? Like if these
yes,
numbers make you feel uncomfortable, why are we why?
Yeah.
Like if they're supposed to
mm-hmm,
scare you. And she just kept saying like why, and then she was so adamant, no matter how many times they told her, like, hey, you're never going to be able to get a letter out. Like, she was extremely adamant to the point where she was willing to cut off her own thing. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
things like that were
Swallow the
so
yeah.
unique, especially
mm-hmm,
in a newly severed person. And we kind of start getting timelines for people, um, like as the episodes go on, like when Mark S meets with the woman who can help you reintegrate, she's like,
mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're just a baby. You've only been severed for 2 years." So you can assume from that what was his name? Pete. Pete
PD,
was
PD. Yeah, yeah,
Petey. Like he must have been severed for years
yeah,
if
yeah,
she's making such a comment like that. And
mm-hmm,
if Mark S is only 2 years in, and then you have someone like Kelly who just became severed and from day one was problematic, which was
mm-hmm.
interesting because I was like, why are they keeping her? That was my thought. Like, why are they keeping her here if she doesn't want to be here? Like
Mm-hmm.
when they seem to be having a handle on everybody else. So
Which is,
that stood out to me. But
yeah, no, but
No, yeah, yeah.
I didn't
no,
like put
that's
it.
I'm sorry, no, but that's a great point, because the fact that I think that what what was weird is that they kept saying no, your resignation letter is not accepted, right? And I'm like, well, who's determining?
Remember when she kept running out into the staircase? And
Yes,
Milchek was like,
Yeah,
yes,
oh,
and then
you must
kept
not really want
re-entering.
to be
Uh,
here.
yeah,
yeah,
and I love that too. And I'm not sure if any of you noticed this, but throughout the episodes, notice how Milchek would only take a picture if it was
hmm,
just Helly, or Helly was in a group, in a group photo.
hmm,
Like
hmm,
obviously had to take like updated out like a updated like department picture.
hmm.
And the other times too, whenever Milchek pulled out a camera, it was only on Helly. The reason is because since like the her outside self was
I
looking
don't
to
recall
promote
that, to be honest.
the benefits of Severance. So notice how like all the pictures are her smiling, having those like kind interactions to say, "Hey, listen, if any of you are interested in having a procedure, your innie self is well protected and will be able to live, a decent a decent livelihood, so to speak, even though they're
That
working
makes
8
so
hours a
much
day."
sense.
I don't
They
recall
So
were
that,
documenting.
to
They
be
were
honest.
documenting.
yeah,
Only because I'm thinking about the episode where, like, after he does the overtime hours for Dylan, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have a party," because he's trying to clean it up at this point. and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me take a picture of you, Dylan, or let's go dance." Like he was trying. I recall him trying to take a picture of Dylan too.
Yeah,
So
he
I don't.
was.
Are you referring to the music dance experience? If so, I
Yeah,
love that scene.
that was a
So
great
yeah, that
scene.
was phenomenal. And I what I loved about it was so that scene, obviously he pulls up with the oh my god, what's the name of it? Like basically the music machine. I can't think of like the name.
Record player.
Um,
Oh, the record player.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Sorry,
No, it's all
yeah.
right.
You good?
ignorant when it comes to music here. Sorry.
You
Uh,
good?
but he immediately snaps a photo of Helly.
Hmm.
If you notice that, I think that scene. I think if you look when she's in her outside self, I think I want to say you could find that picture when she's walking
Hmm.
around the exhibit because there are
Hmm.
definitely photos of her like smiling with the other employees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they've been
yeah.
documenting like her experiences just to promote like the quote unquote
Hmm.
like benefits of of Severance. And another thing too is that I love how like why I love Miltrick so much is that there was like he was very charismatic, but also
Hmm.
had like these obviously all these like secrets buried within him.
Hmm.
And so he had to sort of maintain control over macro data refinement after they were constantly rebelling, going
Yeah.
against
And over
Negan's
Patricia
principles.
Arquette at one point
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
Oh
he
yeah.
tapped into the overtime hours and he's like, "Oh, he basically did it without her permission."
Yeah.
Yeah. She knew
And
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
she's
about it.
supposed to be above him. So like it
Hmm.
it was interesting
See sort of
that
like that
dynamic.
power. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. And what I loved about and obviously like the dancing commences basically because he was trying to find an excuse for because I want to say
Oh,
Patricia
he knew
Arquette's
he
character
did it
was
wrong.
oh yeah. I want to say she was fired by the board at one point
She was.
because
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
later
pictures
on.
came out of Helly trying to commit suicide, and
Hmm.
obviously like the Kier found out about this saying, well, wait a minute, like why are you not like my daughter almost died. Like
Yeah.
regardless of how you perceive her, she's still my flesh and blood and
Hmm.
everything. And he
And
says,
she didn't report it.
honestly, yeah, that too. And then, Milchek says, honestly, we're all having a tough day. And
Hmm.
even like when the dancing starts and everything, I love how sort of like intrusive he was. How
Yeah.
he's
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
like getting
yeah.
all up close and personal just to like, you know what I mean? His dancing
Yeah.
was so good in that scene too, honestly. And even
He
like at
crushed
like
that role.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Even Mark was sort of like doing like this, like sort of moving around, and
Yeah.
he discovers like the head of security's key card, so they can
Hmm.
bypass all the doors and everything. And this is see sort of like Dylan lashed out against him,
Hmm.
saying like I loved how like the scene turned completely red because it was show like how like
Yeah,
Dylan
yeah,
was
yeah.
boiling up inside, and then he sort of lashed out against him. He's saying, "What what's his name? What's his name?" And everything like that. So that was my favorite scene in the entire show, and it was nice to see Dylan, um, like sort of had like a bit more seriousness to him,
Yeah,
compared to
yeah,
sort of spewing out jokes. And not to say his jokes weren't funny. I thought he was hilarious, Zach
yeah,
Cherry, because
yeah,
I love how he was responding to like the OND people saying they're over here killing people,
yeah,
like or something like that, or like he
Those were
tied like
my favorite. And he like
yeah
built it to the point where as a viewer I was anxious too. I'm like, Bert's gonna kill you.
yeah.
Get away, get away. Like, and it was really just because like, man, that actor he was
Especially when
just,
he discovered that painting.
yeah, he's
That's
like,
that's
look.
that's when it got to me. That I was like, oh snap! Like yo, like Bert
yeah
ain't
and that too.
Bert
And
ain't
I
it,
thought
man.
it was crazy to think how
Like, Bert's
Milchek
gonna kill y'all.
yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
even when Milchek purposely sent the photo of OND, like killing all those people, just to
Hmm.
sort of like divide Irving and Bert. I
Yeah.
thought it was interesting too. So it's just yeah, there's a lot. It's sort of like so much to digest, but I really really love the show. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I think so. The main theme, one of you guys touched upon it earlier, but the main theme of it is the free will aspect, right? Like, is that something that you thought that when the any when if the any wanted to actually quit, does that not speak to the free will of the person, even though they're like the Audi says no, you cannot quit? Like, does that not does it have like a in terms of free will itself, was that something that you thought that a lot of people in the film may have had an issue with, in terms of like, this is why this goes against free will? Because if you don't want to do something but you're telling yourself you're going to do it, is that not free will? Which side of the coin do you land on in terms of like who is correct?
Mm, that's a good question. I'm not sure if you wanna. I had to think about that for a second, Christina. If you wanna answer that one, I think you could give a better answer than I would. So.
Not true, but I will answer. I kind of lean on the side of the the people protesting, because
Mm,
I think you lose so much when you do sever. And if you want to leave, I mean, it's still you. So
mm-hmm,
imagine if your Audi was working at that job. Like, I think that there's a certain level of connection between consciousness and the brain. And
mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think you are still the same person. And a lot of times
Right.
they still carried and embodied the same personality. They may not have had the why, but
Mm-hmm.
again, Helly R is a great example. She was honestly like prima donna in there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
so she, was embodying her same, like, yeah, she just didn't know exactly why. So I feel like it does go against free will if you
Mm,
wanted to leave, because naturally, without the procedure, without the chip, you wouldn't be doing that.
right,
Like,
right.
you wouldn't want to be there. Obviously, like, Mark couldn't be a professor, so he needed like a mindless job, but he
Mm-hmm.
like would not have been happy doing a mindless job, which is
Right.
why he
Yeah.
ended up trying to get the procedure. And for him, like at the time, it made sense, but you could even
Mm-hmm.
see like his innie sort of pulling him to something greater. Like
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
PD, he was just coming in typing, and
Mm-hmm.
then now, like, he's like, I don't know why I'm searching and like going against the rules. I have no reason to actually do that. When
Yeah.
Patricia Arquette's character is like, no, you can't travel the halls anymore, and he still does it, but
Mm.
he doesn't really have a why. Like, he doesn't have a reason to disobey, if that makes sense.
Right.
He's
Right.
like he's yeah, like it's odd because
It
there's a
is.
connection. So I think
It is.
it does go against your free will, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't want to be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um. No, definitely, and I think, like you said, you gave an excellent answer. So I'm not sure what else I get other than, at the end of the day, these are very, they're, any outside versions of these people are, I mean, they're two separate individuals,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sort of with no knowledge of what the other is actually doing. Um, and obviously the most they have is like the extent. It's pretty much the aftermath of whatever happened. So
Mm-hmm.
example is when Marcus takes to the break room after defying Harmony multiple times. You see him enter the testing room, meets eyes with Miss Casey, apologizing for getting her in trouble, and
Mm-hmm.
then the aftermath is he has like bruising all over his knuckles, and or you even look at like Heliara, for example, where she's sent to the testing room after you know uh, trying to get past the coding detectors,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, and she's forced to repeat the same paragraph 1,000 times, which is insane to think about,
Absolutely insane.
because from their perspective, they're never leaving. They leave
Mm-hmm.
for a quarter of a second, and the
Yeah.
elevator doors open. They're going straight back to work.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not really living a fulfilling life. I mean, I think arguably like them getting the chance to sort of expose the unethical nature of Severance is probably the most gratifying thing they've ever done, because their job is so monotonous and they really don't know what they're doing. That's the funniest part. As an audience, for me at least, like, that is the least interesting question to answer, because I think if they reveal what it is macro data refinement actually does, we'll probably be left unsatisfied. So I'm fine with them. I like the idea of it being literally just of it being nothing. Like, there's no
I agree.
significance to what they do. You know what
And
I
I
mean? Like,
think it's a fun little thing that they can keep on season after season, episode after episode, because even when you go to Bert's department, optics, like, they don't know what they're doing. Like, he doesn't know. I mean, you were talking about the paintings earlier. He doesn't know. Like, Derek, he just doesn't know. Okay, like, leave the man alone. He just don't know. He's doing what he's told to do. Okay.
And I like that concept too, because for me, I think there's sort of, you know, like, my main concern with the show moving forward is I don't want them to go so beyond the rails that it becomes unwatchable, like a Fast and Furious type situation. Of course, I had to reference it. That's more of an extreme case.
If they take their time, they will not do that. Like, Euphoria is a great example. I don't know if you watched that, but the way HBO builds the characters, I mean, if Severance has a lot of characters they can work with, and it will give them multiple seasons because we're interested in all of them. So you can build on any of those characters, as many of the characters as you want. Like, I was even interested in the woman who gave birth and then and then turned around and was confused when Mark's sister's like, "Hey girl, like, William's so cute," and she's like, "His name's Brad." Like, okay, like, weirdo.
Oh, that's right. And
that's so weird.
Thank you for I remember that. Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. And something I wanted to ask you too was, well, actually, I think both of you would know the answers to this question, but did you interpret the ending as, because I think, like, when Heliar's like going through the exhibit in the ending or whatever, I heard like some audio that said from her, where it's like, we have like 2,000 to 3,000 people across the world. So my question was, did they mean Severance extends beyond Lumen Industries, or that 2,000 to 3,000 people from all across the world go to Lumen for the severance procedure? So do you think that, like, Severance? Well, because if it did, I'm assuming that'd be like widely reported, right? So I don't know if sort of what your thoughts are. If, like, I'm assuming so, but because for all we know, because that's why I asked, because of like the example Christina mentioned of like the birthing center, where she says, "Oh wait, that's not my baby's name. What are you talking about?" So yeah.
It's possible that it's all in that one spot, because think about it, like, no one knows how big this place is. No one knows where these departments are. Like, all you see are white hallways. Like, everything looks the same. So no one knows. Yeah, and no one knows where everything is, but you see the map that PD made, right? Like, it's all over the place.
And we haven't even covered his whole map, because he had, and Heliar like pointed this out, but there's a part where there's just houses, and she's like, we haven't even got.
That's where they live.
I didn't assume that.
That's how I took that. That's how I took it. Like, where Cobell and Mark, how they're neighbors.
Yeah.
You remember seeing, like, when he's driving off, every time they show him driving off or her driving off, they show all the other houses. They look the exact same.
I saw those, but I didn't know that's so.
That's Lumen housing.
But then that must be right next to the facility. But the facility is so big that you don't even know, because when they go to perpetuity, there is that replica of Kier's house, or like. So it's like, I don't know. Could that be the housing? Because it's just from what it seems like it's just Mark and Harmony who live there.
That's all they're showing us. But I think that everybody.
No, you're wrong.
No,
actually.
never mind. I am wrong.
You are wrong.
I am wrong because Irving
Irving
lives in a different.
Yes,
Jesus.
And so does Bert. Like, so I don't know what that is. I think.
Wow.
I think Derrick said it eloquently. Like, I agree with his statement to answer your question, Matt. Like, I think it's in that area, but we don't know necessarily who. For example, like we have no idea who. Like, they could be walking around and you just wouldn't know, obviously, and we don't know how many. I think they gave a number, maybe because this is just the start. And they're going to really, really push it. And it's all experimental right now. Because even when Matt's sister goes to research that guy who's in government, the woman who had the baby, her husband, and he's at the forefront of pushing Severance in a positive way. The article was from like 2 years ago. Like the date of the article, which I thought was important to note, which means they have been pushing it for some time.
Well, Bert's been working there 7 years.
Right. And
so,
then Petey had been there. Yeah. So you just, we're just picking it up at Mark's story, which is,
wow.
Again, they have a lot of room. They just need to take their time.
Yeah, exactly. And the one last thing I do want to mention is I only express my concerns because shows this creative tend to spiral into craziness, right? And we don't know the full extent of what Lumen actually really what Lumen actually is. Where all these like as both of you stated, like where these apartments are located, how many workers do they actually have in the building, etc. And Miss Casey basically is this like the wellness instructor. So anyone who visits there basically undergoes like the psychological evaluation to make sure that they're fit to do their task. And it's revealed that she's Mark's wife who passed away in a car accident. And I love the scene because like this very like emotional music is playing over, and he's doing a monologue, which is parallels to what Miss Casey was at, like the questions Miss Casey was asking him as well. So it was sort of like building and building, and obviously, like I said, the bombshell reveal of his wife technically being alive. So, do you think that the chip, like, for lack of a better word, resurrects someone, but only as an any self, and the testing room that she's sent back into is for her to just sort of be turned off, like basically like a robot in essence. So like they reactivate the chip, she's alive again, but she can't express anything beyond what the chip allows. Otherwise, she dies again or something like that. Because we don't know when she was acquired by, Lumen, or for all we know, she could have secretly been, severed long ago, but opted not to tell Mark.
You can go first, Derrick, because I have a strong answer to that.
Okay. I think that, just to sum it up real fast, I think that it's I think she's just alive and no one knows where she is. I think she's off somewhere and no one it's just one of those things where I think she works for Lumen for sure. As like high exec, and that's just something that we don't know about yet. That's my theory on it right now, because I don't think that the chip has any power to bring anybody back. I think it's just what's that thing that you can use to cut off your memory from that area.
And that's why I mentioned like the go beyond the rails thing, because I'm not saying they will, but it's sort of like a working theory.
That's what you're fearing.
I hope they do not.
That I can tolerate that if the explanation makes sense, but I think sort of obviously what Christina's answer is probably going to say, it makes sense for them to sort of stick with, what the chip actually does, or what we're believed it does for the time being.
I mean, they have enough to go with a lot of stories, as I've said. Like, I think it could be a running subplot that we're trying to figure out what Lumen does, and that's kind of fun. And I think they should keep running with that and keep giving us these random yet cohesive interactions, like the baby goats. And the guy's freaking out, and he's like, "The goats aren't ready." And you're like, "Okay, sir, like, relax." But
I was looking at them. I was like, "That's dinner for me."
I think honestly, they could go a lot of directions with Miss Casey. I mean, they could even dive deeper into Mark S's personal life. I mean, we get glimpses of that with his interaction with his sister and his brother-in-law. And they talk about how they were really close and blah, 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 and all of these things. But what if she just, I don't know, like, what if he just sucked, Like,
Yeah, and
that was just
he
like an
did.
active.
You could see glimpses of that.
you definitely do not. Yeah.
Think about the interaction he had with the girl he's kind of dating, like the birthing coach. And he goes out to, like, have this interaction with the woman who programs the chips. And then he comes back, and it's the middle of the night. And he's like, she's like, "Should I just leave? Because you've been gone for like, I've been up, I heard your car." And he's like, "No, you didn't. Go back to bed. I'm just up." Like, he has this weird demeanor anyway. And then she's like, "Should I leave?" Picture what time that is, okay? And he's like, "Yeah, I guess you should." Yeah, like, so she's got to leave in the wee hours in the morning. Like, we're assuming y'all did stuff, and she's sleeping over, and you're like, "All right, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Or when he
has to go.
Yeah. Or when he tears a picture. Yeah. Or when he tears his wife's picture in half, like, drunk.
That was wild.
I was like, oh, and then to see him tape everything up and then have him give that like monologue, was really well done.
Yeah,
I feel like
so
I was
he
gonna
might.
say something else, but
So they could go in a lot of directions. Yeah, they could just go in a lot of directions, and I hope that they do. I thought it was interesting Irving's direction, and how like pressed Irving was. Like, I was like, "Bro, you need to."
Yeah, but it's interesting.
You gotta move on, bro.
We just have many. We have so many unanswered questions. That allow for a season 2. Like, what was the significance of the card Dylan picked up in OND before they were all sent back to the office? Because Milchek ended up confiscated. That was the whole reason why he activated the overtime procedure. Why is Irving painting the hallway Miss Casey goes through to head down to like what's called the testing room? Obviously, like the question that I don't personally want to answer is what is it that macro data refinement actually does? Will that be answered? I hope not. I really think it's just. I honestly think
hope they just
it's
keep
just
it as a fun. Like, we don't know. Like, we don't need to know.
I like it. For me, I interpret it as like it's just a matter of keeping the workers busy. Like, what they're doing is so insignificant. Like, literally, like what they're doing, it doesn't make the industry, like make the company profitable. It's literally just, you are under our control. We'll give you these tasks, and that's it. Like, there's no like weird thing where like, oh yeah, we're gonna mind control everyone in the world or something like that. Like, I don't want there to be like some diabolical plot. I like to think that it's just a metaphor for how companies treat workers, how they have them undergo these very like poor conditions, how unethical they can be, how they don't really meet the necessary criteria to have them be in an environment they feel comfortable or safe in, and stuff like that. So,
and you're basically in the Truman Show. They're pulling the strings.
Yeah.
And we get this when Harmony's like, "Oh, I am letting them be a little free to give them a little purpose," and then she like reins it in, like, "No more." As soon as you discover that optics and design, like, they're a huge department.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
so many
think that
people.
if I had to guess, I would say that this has something to do with Rwanda, because the fact that the coffee specifically comes from Rwanda, there's some type of connection to me with what they're doing somehow, some way to Rwanda,
I
because
don't
it
know.
is that's so random to have coffee like from like they specifically show it, and Milchek is specifically like speaking about it too. Like he brings the coffee
Oh,
to
okay.
Mike and says, "Hey, here you go. Here's your coffee, fresh from the hills of Rwanda, straight from the hills of Rwanda." There's some to me. There's something that's a connection to that somehow, some way. I don't know why. Don't know
I
what, but
I think that line has a deeper meaning, but
mm-hmm,
there's no. I interpret it as this is one of the few opportunities you'll get to know what the outside is like.
Yes,
So here you
that's how
are.
I
okay,
interpreted it
okay,
as well.
That's
okay,
it.
Like they
okay,
give them,
okay, okay.
because that's a running theme, they give them sort of incentives to keep
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
some semblance of purpose. Because, like you said earlier, like, you know, all they see is their work life. They don't really have much purpose
Mm-hmm,
besides the quote unquote work and these fun snippets of things. So when
mm-hmm,
someone comes along and they give them, like, this coffee's from Rwanda, it gives
mm-hmm.
them a new conversation, right? Like, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
drinking Rwandan coffee. And
Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
when
yeah,
they
yeah.
go to the wellness center, like, Miss Casey gives them general snippets. You are
Yeah.
really kind.
Yeah.
Like, it's like nonsensical general snippets, but
Mhm.
they need that because they have no semblance of life, but they don't know that they
Yeah.
have no semblance of life. But it seems
Yeah.
to, like, brighten them up a lot more when they have these, I don't know.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, like they have a lot they can, and again, I cannot stress this enough. Just take your time. I feel like that's where
Yeah.
Handmaid's Tale went wrong. It was like first season was a
Mhm.
smash hit. Second
Mhm.
season was like, because it was like they were rushing so much that they were missing um, really good details. And then it just got
Yeah.
worse and worse. And I
Yeah.
haven't seen a show do it that well except for Euphoria. And they have one other
Mhm.
season coming out and then they're done. And I think
Yeah.
that's how you do a good show. You let well enough alone. You leave it alone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think one thing Apple TV does well is, from what I've seen so far, because there was another series that I saw with Olivia Spencer that was really good. Um
Defending Jacob.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, Defending Jacob was another one. No, that was with Chris Evans. Jesus, I forgot all about that one. But it was that, and one with Olivia Spencer in it, where they developed the story properly, and it didn't seem like it was too much. It didn't seem like they rushed anything. Like Defending Jacob only had one season, I think, but there was another show with Octavia Spencer that had two seasons that connected very well, seemed very well paced, and they didn't rush
Yeah,
the theme
because
of
they
it.
have a lot. I mean, I can't. They just have so much that they
Hmm.
can really explore here, and
Hmm.
so there really isn't a need to go
Yeah.
crazy, to be honest.
No, I
And
agree.
they and
It's
everything is well done. Like I didn't feel like any themes were shoved in my face, like
hmm.
diversity. It was just
Hmm.
there, like it
Yeah,
existed in different spaces and in different levels, which was nice.
yeah.
Um, LGBTQ presence was there. Again,
Hmm.
wasn't in your face. Like there was the way they did it was so beautifully done, where it was just
Hmm.
like there is this romance happening,
Yeah.
and it's
Hmm.
like the viewer can feel it. They're not even
Yeah.
like they don't need to bang. Like
Yeah. It
Yeah, yeah,
just.
they
you're
I know
right.
what you mean.
and it just
Oh, I'm
felt
sorry. You go ahead.
natural. No, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I love how, like when
It's
representation
beautifully
is done
done.
right, you don't fall into those stereotypes. You try to just treat every character as they are another person,
Yeah,
because all of our feelings are valid, all of them are natural, and nothing should be more normal. Well, I mean, some feeling, like obviously like murder and all that. Like I don't think you should have those kinds of feelings, but it generally speaking, right? Like some feelings shouldn't be normalized more than others, because we're all humans. We think differently, and it's a nice space, at least in today's world, to be where we should be able to respect each other regardless of who we identify as, and things of that nature. So yeah,
yeah,
I
it was
really like that about the show too.
really dope. I mean, I'm even thinking about Milchek's character. Like when I first started watching it, I was like, all right, is he just another assistant? But he's actually way more than that, and he holds a lot of power um,
He,
in his position, which was very interesting to see play out throughout the show, as well as the woman who is the only one who can program and deprogram the chips. Like that was a cool role to see a person of color in as well. Not that you initially perceive them as that, but sometimes these shows do make you feel like, all right, like,
It's overkill.
yeah. And even the dynamic between Mark and the doula or the birthing coach, like, it's just like another woman he's going on a date with who has this kind of sub role, but she's not in your face. Like, we're not like, oh, another interracial couple. Like, we're just like, oh, he's going on a date.
yeah,
And she happens to
which
be
is
this
refreshing.
person of color. Yeah, so it was very refreshing, and they had great chemistry. Like it was awkward, like for their roles, it was like an awkward sort of. Yeah, it was great. They did a good job.
yeah. I think Derek, was there anything else you wanted to add to that as well, or?
No, I think that's it for me. That's it for me. Yeah.
Trying to think what else. Well, obviously the close up. What would you rate the series as a whole? So we do like movie stubs. So out of five, movie stubs. So I guess we can start with Christina. What would you rate the series overall?
Oh, based on season one, I would rate it a 5 out of 5. That's a strong rating, a 4.8 out of 5. I don't
Okay.
want to. It was really good. Like it was just really good. I don't know where they're going season two, but 4.8.
That's fair. That's fair.
What about yourself, Derek?
I'm gonna give it a 5. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was very well paced. I think they had a great balance of characters and showcasing their storylines without being overbearing, and I'm with it. So yeah, 5.
I'd probably do so. I usually go by 0.5. Um, I'd probably give this a 4.5. I have like very minor flaws with the show, but
Like
nothing that
what?
the like not. Well, I think pacing was one. I think some episodes were not as well paced as others. I think um the ending, like the weird dance number for the waffle party was very in your
Now
face
that was weird.
and weird, because I understand that like Lumen isn't like very normal, so to speak, but I really felt like they could have just done without like the awkwardness. I really don't know what they were going for. I think the goat scene was a bit unnecessary to me. Maybe it was a metaphor for how sort of like Lumen has a worker under their fingertips, but unless that has like a role to play in the future, I'd probably I understand like why they show that brief scene, and all that. So like a few of those like moments of weirdness that sort of made me think, well, did you really have to add it in there? Because I already know what you're going for. You don't need to go
The
the extra.
goat
So stuff
scene
like
I
that.
feel like was very necessary. I feel like they had been very intentional about everything. Like I don't know if you remember the scene where Harmony is praying to her shrine, but there's like almost like a hospital band that has some woman's
Yeah,
name, Charlotte, and they really
Charlotte.
focused in on that. Um,
Charlotte Cobell.
yep. And
Yeah.
I think the goat scene was necessary. I will kind of agree with you on the dancing scene because I didn't understand the purpose of that, except if the purpose was um, to, I guess, meet human needs because they are still human. You know what I mean?
Well, if you guys
And
remember that painting, though, that's what the painting was about. Was the it was a guy that had this whip, and he was going. He was about to strike down, and it was the goat, the the jester, and then I think it was a lady or something like that. So the masks they were wearing were all characters that was from a painting that they showed. I think in like
mm,
episode 2 or 3, something like that. So it referenced back to one of the paintings, but that so it's something that's within the culture of Lumen. I don't know what the hell it is
yeah,
though.
I don't know either. Like, so
Yeah.
I will agree with you on that scene. I think the baby goats were necessary, though. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know
Hmm.
why, because one, they appeared so early on in this
Hmm.
season, and I felt like they were very particular about
Yeah.
every hint and thing that
Oh,
they
for
said
sure.
and did. So it was like even the way the guy was freaking out, like, you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't
Yeah.
know. Like that showed it showed many different things because he didn't know who they were. He just knows
Hmm.
someone comes and picks up these ghosts.
Yeah, definitely. And
Like
They're not ready.
he thought it was
and then
them.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think like the only other flaw I have would be I think the weakest characters had to be Devin and Rickon. A lot of the time
Mm-hmm.
they were just there to be there. I
Mm-hmm.
did like what they did with Mark, the any version of Mark reading his book and sort
Mm-hmm.
of developing like these new these new ideas and how he ends up thanking him in person, saying, "No, you changed my life. Like you helped me, like find the confidence to do what I have to do." Or it's at least, we or at the very least we know that's sort of in the back of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Devin's character, I don't know, like those characters didn't really stand out to me. A lot of the time,
I
I
felt
sort of
like
like how like Devin,
they were just to move the plot for Matt, which
yeah,
they are necessary because
yeah,
you have to move the plot somehow, and like it would feel too forced if Patricia Arquette was the one who kept moving the plot, which she
yeah, yeah,
was
yeah,
in
yeah.
his Audi life, but it was like you had to give something else for it to move along.
Sure,
And I think those characters are very important. And again, another
yeah,
reference to Euphoria. There is a character in Euphoria that is the character's only job, and it is very needed. And they give her a little bit at the end of this last season, but like they need that
Yeah.
because what else
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
Nobody else could really do that. Like the woman he was dating couldn't. You needed somebody who was like he trusted, and then they had already,
Mm-hmm.
Petey's already out, and he was moving the plot along in the first couple of
Mm-hmm.
episodes. And you can't rely on Harmony because she's playing these dual roles. And if you
Mm-hmm.
give too much, because they're already teetering on the line of it being like,
Yeah.
well, why is she here so much? Like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you couldn't really rely on her. So you needed this person that he would naturally and normally call up. And
Mm-hmm.
I liked that Devin's character fell flat because I don't need to know her story. I just need her to
Yes.
take
Yeah.
me
Yeah. Yeah.
to Mark's
Yeah.
next. Like
Do her
that's
job.
all. Yeah, do your
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel
fair
that.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're
Which
wondering
actually
why I
fits in
was,
with the theme.
yeah, and if you're wondering why I was smirking, my mom just like opened because I saw my door open.
You get
And then she was like opening like very slowly for a second, so I wasn't laughing at what you were saying, which is
No, you're
that's
okay.
why, yeah. In case you're what I was listening to you though, I just found that funny, but no, I definitely understand what you mean. It's just uh, I don't like when characters only serve that purpose, because I really feel like
How else were they gonna do that though? Like
well, when it comes to what
they
was one
couldn't.
like the yeah. Sorry, you go ahead. I
No,
didn't
go
know.
ahead. What were you
Oh
gonna
no, I was
say?
saying, like, so what was like the one of the major points you brought up in terms of like Devin? Like what does Devin do that otherwise couldn't be done? If that makes sense. I just want to make sure I kind of want to put words in your mouth and
Well,
say,
we get sort of this moment where there's a turning point where Mark is like before in the beginning, he's like, "No, I like having this separation. I'm for severance and I'm okay with that." And then when
sure,
he
yeah,
gets to this turning point and he's almost at a crossroads, Devin's character is the character that is sort of pulling that out of him almost by moving the story, the plot along. So we get that when she
gotcha.
goes to the birthing cabin and there Rickon's like, "Oh, we have to clear the air and this is just a, ritual we do." So it's like, every time she has a contraction, you share a secret. And he's getting to this point where he's like, "I don't know how I feel really." But I do have
I
this
gotcha.
secret and I don't, and he's
Gotcha.
sort of, and she's that for him. And as the season continues, you see that more and more, and he kind of starts like dropping a little bit more, or at least he's we're getting moments of reconciliation where he's trying to decide, is it good that I'm severed? Is this a good thing, or is this actually a bad thing? And I'm a part of it that I never really thought about until, yeah, until like Petey sort of fell into my lap and now he's not here and I don't have anybody to talk to about this and sort of dissect it and figure out how I feel. And she is that character.
I gotcha
I
now.
like that. I like that.
Yeah, I think I think my problem was less with
Her and more
her
with Rickon.
purpose and
Oh,
more with her not being as compelling as the other characters, because that's your only purpose. So when
that
you
it
don't,
was. Yeah.
you know what I mean. So I think that's my like I said, it's nothing against the actor. I think the actress did a fantastic job, especially in
They
the
just
ending where
had
she
too
sort of
many. I think they
yeah
have a lot of
sure
characters that are main, and they did need, and maybe they'll develop her in other seasons, but like it's like who else were we gonna get that from? Because all of his
right
actual friends and Petey makes a good point. When Petey sat down with him, he was like, "I'm your best friend. You are just
Yeah.
like
You're a good
yeah
a
friend.
like."
Yeah.
It that goes to show that Mark actually does not speak to anybody. Like he really just goes to work and his world is very, very small. And we get that from the people that he interacts with. So I don't know who else they would have built that for him with, because
sure
he just he clearly has no friends. Like like he
so
doesn't have any friends.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think another thing too for me is I tend to compare characters with each other. So by result, I will say like I didn't like X character because she he or she wasn't given like wasn't given the necessary development. When sometimes characters, a lot of the time, characters are just there to progress the plot, but does so in a way that isn't sort of like obtrusive, like I'm trying to find the right word, that feels organic. And in the case of Devin, a lot of it was just sort of Mark having to spill out his feelings. And really, I mean, that's really a lot of the times what siblings do with each other. They sort of confide in one another, try to understand what the other's going through, to guide them through a tough time. But yeah, that's sort of
Yeah.
where I stand on it. But like I said, as a whole, I mean, the show really does not have many falls at all, like very, very few. So yeah, I definitely want to rewatch it at some point once my brain gets
Yeah.
unscrambled by the ending,
Yeah.
because it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, most definitely. I agree with that. All right. Well, I think think that wraps it up pretty much, right? I think
yes, it
all
does.
hearts and mind cleared.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Have a TV, watch it.
Christina, go ahead and tell everybody where they can follow you if you want to give your social medias out.
You guys can follow me on Instagram at Hey Chrissy, 3 Ys. And that's about it.
All right.
You can find me over there. But I'll catch you guys later.
All right.
Have a good one, Christina. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching and or listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.